Hello guys and welcome back to my channel. Today I want to give you my first impressions about the new spear weapon, which is coming with the next expansion on the 20th of August. So the spear is a new weapon which will be available for every class, and every class will have new skills. In this video I will cover all the classes. Some classes will be covered more because they are more interesting, and some other classes maybe they are just not viable with the current state of the spear. So please take these words I say with a grain of salt, because I don't know if the spear version we can have here in the beta test is the finishing one, the finished one, the definitive one. So let's start. Also, I will not go super in depth during the reviews of the skills of the spears, because there are many other people which did it. There are tons of screenshots on Reddit and on the forums, so I will just tell you what looks good and what looks bad and what could be improved maybe. Let's start from the Necromancer. So the Necromancer has a new mechanic called Soul Shards. Striking an enemy with Perforate, which is the skill 2, will siphon health from them, from the enemies of course. So some skills will give you Soul Shards. As you can see here, the third chain of the auto attack will give you Soul Shard. The skill 2 will consume any active soul shards. Then we have the skill 3, which is a daze on the enemy. It's really close, so it's not really the best, and also the damage is kinda bad. If your target is using a skill, the daze duration is extended and you gain additional life force and soul shards. So basically, if you daze someone, you get 1 soul shard, and if you get a daze on an enemy which is using skill, you will get 3 soul shards, and these stacks of soul shards will be consumed once you use your skill 2, and so it will boost its damage and you will siphon health from it. And then we have the skill 4, which is an unblockable single target spear toss. Basically, we can press it again to teleport to the target and get 3 shards, and also if the target is isolated we will get 3 more charges. And then the skill 5, it performs a white swing around us that will remove boons from foes and negates the next few boons applied to them. Gain soul shards and might for each target struck. So we press it, you see this AoE, each target struck will get 2 boons removed, and also their next 3 boons will not be applicated on them. So let's say we remove 3 boons and they are about to get might on them. So the first application will be negated, the second application negated, the third application negated. So basically the next 3 boons applications will be negated. This could be extremely useful. Let's say for example you remove stability, their firebrand tries to apply stability again on them, so the stability will fail. This is a very good mechanic. I think it's cool to have. Maybe 3 stacks is not much, but I think it can work. So the auto attack seems kinda bad and kinda slow. It seems like when you have slow on you and you don't have quickness. The skill 2 is kinda cool, it deals decent damage and it's kinda fast, and the AoE is kinda big. As you can see, I managed to hit all of 3 of these golems, but still it only hits 3 targets. So in War vs World, mostly every skill will hit 5 targets, and this is how you basically do damage to multiple enemies, but this one is just 3 targets. The cooldown is kinda low. The soul shard mechanic is kinda useless because, as you can see, in a moment the damage increase is almost 0. Like, let's see, skill 2, you see some siphon health with the skill 2 thanks to the soul shards, but it's not really needed, so you can actually almost ignore this mechanic. What you should be hitting with the spear, I imagine the spear kinda decent on Reaper and on the Scourge, because the skill 5 is another boon removal. Okay, we need to sacrifice the greatsword or maybe the axe plus the focus. I don't know yet which you should sacrifice and if you should sacrifice any of those weapons, but still on the spear we get the skill 2, which is a decent damage dealer, and then the skill 5, which is another decent damage dealer and also a boon strip. I imagine this especially on the Reaper, because on Reaper most of the time we will be in Shroud. So you cast your Shroud, auto attacks, you have your cooldown reduction on the auto attacks, so you can recharge your skill 4 and the other 3 skills, sorry. Then you leave the shroud once you are done with your skills or when you are done with your life force, and then you can immediately go for skill 5 to remove boons and negate next boons application, and then the skill 2, which is a nice burst skill to have. At this point you can swap. Now here I have double swords, but imagine I had axe and focus, I could use my skill 3 from the axe, or if I had the greatsword I could use skill 4 and skill 5 and skill 3, skill 2. Every skill on the greatsword it deals kinda okay damage, and then once the Reaper Shroud is ready again, we can enter it again and do the same. Then we leave and we press our skill on the axe again, swap to spear, skill 5 and skill 2. The other 2 skills are single target, so they are kinda bad, both of them kinda useless, I would say. But this one, the skill 4, at least is unblockable, so you can manage to stun an enemy and to teleport to him. Next up we have the warrior. The auto attack will hit one enemy and then another enemy in a radius around those enemy, and then the more close you get to the enemy, the more targets you can hit. When you are super close you can hit up to 5 targets. This would be kinda decent, but it's kinda slow in the cast, and most importantly those are some projectiles, so in War vs World any projectile simply doesn't work. Then we have the skill 2. This one is not a projectile, it deals a decent amount of damage and it will cripple, and also it's a combo finisher blast, the cooldown is kinda low. This is one of the best skills probably. Then we have the skill 3, which is an evade, and then you send a knockback in front. This is decent to have, it's okay. Then we have the skill 4. It will throw, oh sorry, I failed the toss. Let's go to the skill 5. The skill 5, it's a single hit target, but still if there are targets around my target, they get hit by this skill, but still the damage doesn't seem fantastic and it's kinda slow to cast, like all the hits take quite a while to land on the enemy, and if the enemy is moving at the moment it's kinda buggy, so you will not land any single hit on anyone. So let's get to the skill 4 again. You toss this spear in front, and this spear will immobilize, apply daze also if the enemy is using a skill. The damage is decent, but still I think this is a projectile, and even if it's not a projectile it's kinda slow, and I don't think it's worth playing this weapon on any specialization, because the damage is bad on the skill from 1 to 5, and then the healing is non-existent, so we cannot really use any healing warrior specialization with this weapon. And then we can also see the F1, which is kinda decent damage. It's not super fast on the cast, but still you evade while you are on the air and you deal a decent amount of damage. You combo finisher blast, and this is not a projectile, so you will hit many enemies. I think it's not a projectile, I'm not very sure. And also here I have the Berserk, because I wanted to see how the Berserk works. So let's see. I think those are all projectiles, and also it's kinda slow to cast, to be honest, so I think Berserker with this weapon is just doomed. It doesn't work, at least in War vs World. Mesmer is one of the most fluid we have in this beta test, because the spear feels great, and also the skills are kinda interesting to have. The auto attack is a simple auto attack in front of you, which deals damage, decent amount of damage, but it's kinda slow, but still better than other spears. Then we have the skill 2. We will cast this big AoE around us, and if we hit enemies with the outer edge, we will gain clarity. And then we create a clone if we hit an enemy, which is kinda easy in War vs World. Most of the time we will be creating a clone and also hit an enemy with the outer edge. And if we are empowered, we gain might. Okay, so if we get an hit on the enemies, you see we get 15 seconds of this buff called clarity. And if we spend those clarity stacks on the other skills, they get empowered. So the skill 3, evade while preparing a strong attack. If you successfully evade an attack before you strike, your attack will heal you. Remove conditions from yourself if you have clarity. So we don't really need condi removals in War vs World. I think this is a good skill in PvP mostly. But let's see it. We press our skill 3 and we deal some damage around us. It's not the best, but still not even the worst. Then we have the skill 4, which is kinda interesting because it removes 2 boons from up to 5 targets. Dash at your foe, removing boons from them. Leave a phantasm at your initial location that will dash after a delay, dealing heavy damage and crippling targets. If your phantasm strike a crippled target, immobilize them instead. If you have clarity, summon an additional phantasm. So this is decent, especially if we have clarity, because we will get an additional phantasm. So let's get some clarity. Skill 4, we dash, deal damage, and we see these phantasms spawning and we can shatter them. So this is nice to have, especially with the trait which makes our phantasms invulnerable when they are created for like 2 or 3 seconds, if I recall. Let's see it again. We dash on the enemy, we remove 2 boons from them, and we deal a decent amount of damage. Then we have Mental Collapse, which is the skill 5. Teleport to your target and release a cascade of psychic energy damaging nearby enemies. Refresh your Mind the Gap skill. Stun foes struck if you have clarity. So this one will reset your skill 2. So the skill 3 is kinda bad. Let's say it's kinda bad for now. The auto attack is kinda bad. We can chew 5, chew again. Let's see it. Okay, skill 2. We will get a stack of clarity, then skill 4, because clarity is good on the skill 4, we need to expand that clarity on the skill 4. At this point we could use our skill 5 because it resets the skill 2. You see, damage, AoE damage and stuns, and it refreshes our skill 2. So the full rotation basically would be 2, 4, 5 and then 2 again. This is a nice burst, I think, and also it will strip some boons from enemies, and also it's kinda low cooldown and kinda fast to cast. Let's see, skill 2, 4, 5, and then the skill 2. And also it's kinda AoE around you, it's kinda easy to hit. I'm kinda curious about this Mesmer, and maybe we can have it as on Mirage, because Mirage has good damage traits, and also the ambush skill on the Mirage with the spear is kinda strong. Let's see it. You will get the ambush skill each time you dodge. You press 1 now, you see how much damage you can deal. We dodge again, we can deal a lot of damage again, and very easy damage. Please count that currently on the beta you are full Marauder, so maybe some stats could be improved, but the damage most of the time would be the same unless it gets changed in the numbers. So dodge, you see, skill 1 from the Mirage, it's the ambush skill. Pierce targets in front of you, sorry I couldn't read. Pierce targets in front of you in a flurry of blows. So this could be really strong in a melee situation. Let's say we dodge on the enemy and we can use our skill 1, the ambush skill, and then we can skill 2, skill 4, then skill 5, and then skill 2 is reset, then we can dodge again, and we can press again the ambush skill. I think Mesmer could find a spot in War vs Sword as a DPS class on the spear. I'm very curious about it, and I can't wait for it. The Guardian has a really similar mechanic to the Mesmer. Mesmer has clarity, which improves your next spear skill. Here we have illuminated. If a skill is illuminated, it deals additional effects, additional damage, additional healing. So the auto attack, it's a 3 targets auto attacks on 3 enemies and 3 allies. Like kinda, it's not the slowest on the spear, but the damage just doesn't seem there. So I don't think it's worth it. And also it will heal the allies. I think it could be decent as gap fillers when you have nothing to press during a fight, which sometimes can happen. I think this is a decent auto attack, to be honest. It's not a projectile, so kinda easy to land. Then we have the skill 2. Charge forward with your spear, striking enemies and healing allies you pass through. Upon striking an enemy, your next spear attack is illuminated. If you do this while you are illuminated, you also heal for more, your allies by 25% more, and then you apply a resolution. Wow, big buff. Okay, skill 2, you see, we dash in front with the spear, and we can also press it again during the dash to interrupt it. You see, I interrupted it. So I don't think it's worth to play this skill while illuminated, because the additional healing is just too low, the base healing is too low, and the boon is resolution, which is kinda useless. Like every class can apply a lot of it, but still I will tell you later that illuminated is kinda easy to get. So The skill 3, spin around, striking enemies around you. After a short delay, a shockwave of light bursts forth from your position, damaging enemies and granting might to allies. Your next spear attack is illuminating if you strike an enemy with the initial spin. If we are illuminating during this skill, the shockwave additionally blinds enemies and grants fury to allies, so this could be decent as a supportish guardian because we have fury and might and also inflict a blindness on the enemies. So let's cast it while we are illuminated. We get illuminate with this, and then we go here, skill 3, some damage, and then the additional shockwave, and we will get fury, might, a blind on the enemies. So this is not bad, to be honest. Then we have the skill 4, throw a spear above the targeted point, so big AoE you can select, ground targeted. The spear explodes, raining shards that damage enemies and remove conditions from allies. Your next spear attack is illuminated if you are within range of your own shard. So let's cast it while we are illuminated, skill 2 to get the illuminated stack, and then skill 4, big AoE. Each AoE will remove conditions from allies, one condition per ally, I think, and also maximum we can get 8 spears if we are illuminated, so this is a very decent Condi cleanser. Guardian lacks some Condi cleanses. If you play Firebrand, even if you play Celestial or Minstrel Firebrand, I don't know what you play, but most of the time you won't have a lot of Condi cleanses. This could be good, to be honest, for a support Guardian. This weapon, by the way, is just for support because there is no specialization with DPS on Guardian which could use this weapon. So Dragon Hunter will still play the weapons it used to play. This weapon is just for support and it's not even the best, but maybe it can substitute the staff or the mace plus shield, axe plus shield. I still don't know which and if it will substitute any weapon, but it has potential if it gets some tweaks and if it gets buffed. Then we have the skill 5, place a symbol on the ground, knocking back enemies on the initial cast, so this is decent to have because it's an additional CC we normally lack. While active, the symbol grants resistance to allies that don't have it, so it's like 2 seconds, almost 3 seconds of resistance if our allies don't have resistance, otherwise you will not provide any resistance. While standing within the symbol, your spear attacks are automatically illuminated and do not consume the illuminated effect when used. If we use this skill while we are illuminated, while the symbol is active, all other skills are illuminated even if we move out of the range of the symbol. So this is decent because you press it, knockback, and then you go resistance, and also it inflicts a pull at the end, as you could see. And then during the symbol cast, you can cast every skill, and every skill will be illuminated, so it will get additional, like this one will apply resolution, this one will apply fury and blindness on enemy, this one will apply more shards raining from the sky. Let's see it. See, skill 3, skill 2, skill 1. So I think this weapon has potential, but in the current state maybe Guardians will probably don't need this, but I'm not very sure. It has some potential. Next up we have the Ranger. The Ranger has a ranged auto attack. If you are ranged, if you are melee, the auto attack switches to melee. Then we have the skill from 2 to 5, which have additional skills if you use them while you are in stealth, and you can stealth with your skill 5. So you press your skill 5, you go stealth, and the skill from 2 to 5 change to another version you can find here. So the skill 2 is swipe at enemies in front of you, cleaving them. You press it and you see some damage around you, decent damage actually, but it's not really breathtaking. Then we have the skill 3, fling your spear at your enemy, dealing heavy damage. Damage is increased against immobilized, disabled or defiant foes. So you toss this spear, single target, I think. It's also a projectile. This skill is useless in Sword vs Sword Zerg fights. The skill 4 is one of the best animation in the game, probably. Leap at a target location, damaging nearby enemies, deal more damage to foes below the health threshold. Kinda uninspired, like just that. I mean, the damage is not super fantastic, but still okay, I guess. And then the skill 5 makes us enter stealth, and if we press it again, for example, we will drop this net, which will apply immobilize on the cast, and also it will pulse cripple and bleeding on the enemies which are hit by the net for the whole duration. Then the other skills, the skill variants while you are in stealth from 2 to 4, they are some kinda improvements compared to the base ones, but let's say the skill 2 has a follow-up damage, for example. The skill 3, it's still, the spear is wider and unblockable, so, and also it will pierce, it's not a single target anymore, so it's decent. Let's see it. Skill 5 with stealth, and skill 3, it will pierce and also is unblockable. So this is the only way to play the skill 3 if you want to play it, because otherwise in War vs Sword, as we know, the projectiles are useless. And this one, leap to target location, we will also daze enemies with the skill 4, which is the leap. We leap here, we deal damage and also daze. I don't know, power Soul Beast, power Untamed is not the best, I think, in War vs Sword in any variant currently, and maybe like there are some decent weapons already, which are the hammer, the greatsword, and also double mace is kinda decent. We can have also the axe on the offhand. I don't think this spear will change anything, but still the ambush skill on the spear is kinda decent. Let's see it. Release a wave of corruption in front of you, damaging enemies and spawning a spore below every enemy. So if you manage to land this, it's kinda decent as a damage dealer, but still the spore takes a lot to cast, so I don't know. I'm kinda skeptical about this weapon. Let's see it again, the ambush skill. I don't know if I would ever take out the greatsword or the hammer to take this one as a weapon, as an untamed in a War vs Sword Zerg fight. The class is not really the best already, it's probably tier B compared to other DPS classes like the Holosmith and Berserkers, so I don't think we will see a future in War vs Sword Zerg fight for Ranger with a spear, unless it gets changed, of course. Next up we have the Engineer, which is probably the worst of the bunch. Maybe there is Thief, always talking about War vs Sword Zerg fights. So the auto attack, you need to be melee to hit the enemies. Then we have the skill 2, which will provide this dash in front of you with some damage. Like, this weapon is kinda condition oriented, so I think for PvE maybe it's good, but for War vs Sword not really. And if we hit an enemy, the primary target becomes the focus of your other skills, meaning that those targets will get additional effects from our other skills. The skill 3, it's some AoE damage around us, but it's ridiculous damage. Then we can press it again to drop this spear from the sky, which deals another kinda ridiculous damage. Ridiculous is not slow. Charge the earth with electricity, launching focused foes and stunning others. So you press it, if your foe is focused with the skill 2, you will launch them, and you will also stun other enemies behind this cone you just pressed. And then we have the skill 5, which is this one, and we press it, we dash in front, we deal some damage and inflict some burning, vulnerability because I have a trait, and it's also an explosion. I don't know, this weapon seems kinda useless in War vs Sword, like probably just the design is not for War vs Sword. Even if you buff it a lot, I don't think we will ever see this weapon in War vs Sword, because power Holosmiths don't play like they play the hammer, which is decent, or the rifle, because the skill 5 on the rifle is a big burst damage skill. I don't think we can take out the rifle or even the hammer, which is better in melee maybe, to take the spear. I think this probably is the worst, together with the Thief maybe. I don't remember really well. The Thief is kinda similar to Engineer. The weapon is based on conditions, most of the skills are conditions. So we have this mechanic on the skill 2 and the skill 3. The first hit is a lead attack, then we have the follow-up, which is another skill, and then we have the finisher. The damage is not that bad, but it's kinda slow to finish all the chain basically, and also on the skill 3 it's the same, lead attack, follow up and finisher. The finisher will remove boons, it's cool, okay, but it removes a lot of initiative to press all the chain, it's kinda slow. The damage is not insane. I guess the enemies just will kill you before you finish any of these chains. And then we have the skill 4, which is another almost 0 damage skill, and it applies cripple and vulnerability and a daze. Like, why it's kinda underwhelming, at least in War vs World. And then we have the skill 5, which is block the next incoming attack. Wow. If you block an attack, heal yourself. If this skill follows a finisher skill, it blocks additional attack. I don't know if this is a meme or something else, but it's kinda cringe, to be honest. What the fuck is this skill? I don't know. So let's see the animation on the skill 1 and the skill 2. Oh, also, sorry, let's go stealth. The skill 1 is kinda decent in stealth, but still, you cannot really enter stealth all the time in War vs World. The skill 2, you see, third chain, and then the skill 3, 1, 2, and 3. This last hit will remove boons from enemies, but still, I don't know. I think this weapon is kinda doomed as the engineer. I think maybe it's a bit better than the engineer, but thief is kinda bad in Zerg fights, and maybe in small scale is decent, but you need the staff, which deals a lot of damage on the daredevil, the skill 5 on the staff. So this weapon probably is non-existent for War vs World Zerg fights, unless it gets buffed a lot. Next we have the Elementalist, which is the highest expectations people have right now because of the trailers and because how the skills are like spectacular in the cast and in the animation, but let's see if the reality is the truth. So skill 1, out attack, projectile, only one target, on fire element, sorry, attunement, so kinda useless. Skill 2, unleash a volley of blazing spears, damaging foes in an area. Decent damage dealer. I think it's a projectile too. I'm not very sure. The cooldown is kinda low. Combo finisher blast is like very similar to lava font, but in a single shot. Probably this is not a projectile because it seems to hit the ground. Let's see there. I'm not really sure. Then we have the skill 3. Gain boons. Your next spear skill deals increased damage by 20% more damage increase, sorry. And by doing the math, unless you should be hitting the center of the skill 4 with the skill 3 buff, or the skill 2 if you are not sure to hit the center. So skill 2 deals slightly more damage compared to the skill 4, but the skill 4 on the inner circle, it deals 25% damage increase. Then we have the skill 5. It creates a huge symbol below us, and using a number of other skills within the hatching completes the spell, unlocking its full potential. So I picked some meme, or maybe they will get meta because of this. Utility skills, because I need instant cast to manage to show you how the skill 5 works. You press it, now you have some seconds to press other skills, and then you press it again, and you manage to land this volcano, which applies a lot of hit on enemies. They are not really high damage, but they are many, so I think this is decent to have in War vs World, I guess. So the number of casts to unlock the full potential of the volcano is 3, and also the utility skills count, and also your F1, the F5, and many other thingy if you play Catalyst, for example. So let's see it again. Skill 5, skill 2, then I press these skills here. It becomes orange, you can press it again, and you cast this volcano. The volcano is ground targeted. Let me show you one more time, sorry, while we are in a ranged situation. So the first time you press 5, the symbol is only on your ground. Then you can cast the skills you want, for example this one, and then I can choose the location of the skill 5, and you see the volcano erupts there and deals damage. On the water attunement we have a single target hit, out attack, kinda useless. Then we have the skill 2, which is kinda bad in the damage, but still it's very easy to land. It also pierces, so 3 times the damage on the enemies and applies chill, better than nothing. The skill 3 is an evade in front, very similar to the skill 4 on the staff on the fire, but the skill 4 on the staff is backwards, this one is onward. And also it will reduce our next spear skill by 33% on the cooldown. If we use the next spear skill within 5 seconds, you see a ripple effect. Then the skill 4 conjures a whirlpool which applies a slow on enemies and also will pull the enemies hit on the center of the AoE, only by the center of the AoE to the center of the AoE. And then we have the skill 5 which will provide some healing. It's the big symbol. Each skill 5 for each attunement is the symbol, and then it has the same mechanic. So let's see what it does. If you press it again now, it will deal some damage in front, and also it will heal you for each enemy hit. So I guess this is not the best symbol. The fire one was just much better for the damage aspect. On the air attunement we have the auto attack, which is useless again as the other two auto attacks we just saw. The skill 2, create a storm of lightning that inflicts damage over time and to affected foes. So you choose this AoE, small AoE, and those tornadoes, those lightnings will hit enemies, and it seems this skill cannot critically hit. I don't know why, it's like a condition, but it doesn't scale with condition. It's a decent damage dealer because the fulgor effect lasts for a while, like 5 seconds, so totally like 5 pulses. It's okay, the cooldown is kinda low. I don't see much the sense of this skill, but it's decent. The skill 3, gain super speed. Your next spear skill always critically strikes. It's decent for the super speed aspect. We always critically strike because we have 100 critical chance, hopefully. Then the skill 4 is another similar skill to the skill 4 on the water attunement of the spear. We press it, it's a CC on the middle. If you hit enemies in the middle, those enemies will be lifted into the air. You see float by 1.5 seconds. It's a CC, float is a CC, it's usually used in underwater or maybe some skills like for example the skill 5 from the Harbinger Shroud. Let's see it again. I will hit this guy with the center. You see it gets lifted up in the air. Actually not, because it's a champion, but yeah, you get the concept. And then we have the skill 5. Again, we press it, intense windstorm that damages and dazes foes. It's another CC. I guess this weapon has a lot of CCs because we have this one, the twister, which lifts enemies up. Like, let's wait for the veteran to come up again. You see, it gets lifted up. It's a CC. The skill 4 on the water is another CC. This one is another CC because it's a daze, AoE daze. Let's see it very quickly. Skill 5. Bam! The damage is decent, but nothing crazy, I guess. It also takes a while to build up all the symbol. Then we have the earth attunement. The skill 1 is useless again, doesn't pierce, single target, slow as fuck. Then we have the skill 2, another useless skill. I think it's a projectile. It deals more damage than the auto attack, of course, but I think it's a projectile, combo finisher, physical projectile. So, and I also think this is a single target, maybe? Yes, single target on a skill with 6 seconds cooldown, nice. Skill 3, gain barrier, your next spear skill, inflict daze. So another CC. I don't know if the daze will get on 5 targets, if you manage to land a spear skill with 5 targets or just 1 target. I'm not sure. The skill 4 is probably the best skill on the earth attunement. It's not a CC, it creates this AoE which deals damage and more damage at the center. But still the damage is kinda low. But still we can't expect too much from the earth attunement. Usually the damage dealer are on air and on fire, but it seems that the spear is just good on fire for the damage. I might be wrong, but still, let's see. The skill 5 is a symbol. It pulls stability, and then you press it again, and we have this wave, this dust going on the enemies, blinding them and dealing some damage. Not the best damage, but still it's very decent. Let me check really quickly if the symbol from the skill 5 is a pulsing stability for everyone or just for ourselves. I will use this guy. Hello, purple raining. Skill 5. The stability is just for us, of course, otherwise it would be very similar to Hallowed Ground from the Guardian, but it's okay. So, why am I on Tempest? Because I think if this class really works, if the spear can work, it's just because of the Tempest. Like on Tempest we have fresh air, we have on every Elementalist fresh air, but on Tempest it's good because it will reset your F3, which is the overload, so we can overload, and at this point we can enter maybe the fire attunement, we can use our skills. for example this one again, and then we press our volcano and we swap back. We use our skills here, the skill 5 for example again, and then we have another skill 5 again, and then we have the overload ready again. I'm not really sure if this is better, for example, of the hammer, because as you might already see on my channel, I had a Tempest hammer build power to do damage, so this weapon is for sure just for damage, because the support is non-existent, so the possibility is to go for damage on it. But if the Tempest doesn't work out, maybe we can play it on the Catalyst, because on the Catalyst we have a very interesting elite skill, sorry, and it's this one which will recharge the cooldown of every weapon skill by 25 seconds, so we can do this. Skill 5, skill 3, skill 4, skill 2, and then skill 5 again. We press this, we reset everything. Skill 5 again, skill 2, skill 3, skill 4, and then skill 5 again. So this is a huge burst we can get, and also consider that your F5 also counts as a cast to etch the full spell, which is the skill 5, the secondary cast I mean. So let's see it again. We cast our skill 5, we press 1, 2 and 3 with the F5, you see I unlocked the final damage dealer. So Elementalist is promising, there is a lot of AoEs, there is a lot of CCs on these weapons, but I don't know if the damage is enough to maybe take out other DPS classes to bring this class. Maybe, probably is the Catalyst is better, the better choice, but maybe the Tempest, because the F3 is just too good, the Overload is too good, it will hit 3 enemies, I know, but it's basically unlimited damage. Last, and maybe least even, is the Revenant. The Revenant Spear is mostly a condition weapon, I guess, maybe it's not even the best, so right now I could see this weapon maybe on the Celestial Renegade while we are on melee, maybe instead of the short bow, but I'm not really sure because the short bow is kinda decent. So everything on this spear revolves around the skill 5, every other skill will apply some cooldown reduction on your skill 5, which has maximum 2 stacks. So let's see, the auto attack is just, I don't know, it's the worst auto attack ever, it's so slow, it feels so slow, it's painful to use and to watch. The skill 2, hurl your spear towards your foe, inflicting area damage and conditions on target struck, striking at least one foe, causes abyssal raise to receive a large recharge reduction, 10 seconds cooldown reduction. So you can really spam your skill 5. So, skill 2, let's see it, some damage, kinda low damage. The skill 3, dash in direction and slightly recharge abyssal raise while leaving portals in your wake that detonate when foes walk over them. So we will reduce the recharge of our skill 5 by 3 seconds, we will dash and evade, and we will leave these portals, and if enemies hit the portals, they get damage. The animations, by the way, are super cool on the Revenant. And then we have the skill 4, unleash gravitational mist forces on your targeted area, initially dealing damage, then pulling foes in the final. Abyssal Raise cooldown is reduced for each target you attempt to pull. So you attempt to pull, for example, 5 targets, we will reduce the cooldown of the skill 5 by 10 seconds. So it's a pull, basically, the damage is kinda non-existent, at the end it's a pull. And then we have the skill 5, which is the beloved Abyssal Raise, beloved by ArenaNet. There is this small AoE, the cast is super slow, the damage is kinda bad. I don't know, I think this weapon is a meme, maybe it's not intended for War vs War, but I don't know what to say. This class probably is even worse, no, maybe no. Engineer and Thief are just worse. This one is good because you can spam your skill 5 if you play the other skills properly, but still, even spamming your skill 5 costs you some energy and the damage is simply not there, and the cast is so slow. I think the numbers on the arc DPS maybe could be high on this class, I'm not really sure, because you have so many AoEs spam, but still there is almost 0 burst damage and you will contribute nothing to downies, to generating downies, so it's just arc DPS padding, maybe, and maybe not even that. But still, the Torment generation could seem kinda decent with the skill 5 and the skill 2. and the auto attack. So maybe on the Celestial Renegade, maybe there is a small improvement, but I'm not really sure. Okay guys, this is all for today's video. I hope you enjoyed my opinions and how the spears works. It's kinda cool on some classes. I think you understood properly from the video that I like the Mesmer, the Necromancer, the Guardian maybe, and even the Elementalist, but most of the others are simply just bad for now, for the numbers we have. It's probably not worth playing them, but I'm kinda sure ArenaNet will listen to our feedback, because most of the time lately they've been listening. They also provide us with the Landspears, which we wanted for ages. So let's see you on to the next video. Thank you for watching, and please consider leaving a like and a subscribe. Have a great night!